You ever trust someone so much, you ignore all the red flags? Yeah, I did too. My name is Kevin, and this is the story of how betrayal broke me and rebuilt me. It started with Emily. To say she was everything to me feels like a cliche, but it's the raw, aching truth. She had this laugh that could cut through the worst of my days, and she made me believe in a version of myself I never thought possible. I gave her my heart, my trust, my loyalty, all of it, without a single reservation. She was my sanctuary. And Jason? Jason was my brother in all but blood. We'd been through everything together since the 3rd grade. He was the first person I called with good news, the one who'd show up with a six-pack and no questions after a bad day. I trusted him implicitly. The three of us were a unit, or so I believed. I was the lucky one, the guy who had it all. The red flags were there, if I'm honest with myself. I just chose to see them through a lens of love and trust. Emily's phone was always face down. A habit she joked was to preserve the mystery. Jason started canceling our hangs last minute, citing work deadlines that never seemed to affect his social media feed. They'd share a glance across a room, and I'd feel a flicker of something odd, a twinge of unease I'd quickly smother. They're your people, I'd tell myself. You're being paranoid. The day it ended began like any other. I'd finished a project early, feeling on top of the world, and decided to surprise Emily with the expensive champagne she loved. I let myself into her apartment, calling her name, the bottle chilling in a bag of ice. The silence that answered was different. It was a heavy, waiting silence. And then I heard it, a faint, muffled giggle from her bedroom. Her laugh, followed by a deeper, familiar chuckle. Jason's laugh. The world didn't slow down. It simply stopped. The cold from the ice bag seeped through my shirt, but I didn't feel it. I walked to her bedroom door, which was slightly ajar, and pushed it open. The scene is burned into my memory, a perfect, horrifying photograph. The rumpled sheets, their clothes on the floor, the way they froze, their faces a perfect mirror of shock and guilt. There was no lie left to tell. The two people I loved most, tangled together in the ultimate betrayal. I didn't say a word. I just looked at them, my vision tunneling. Emily's mouth was moving, forming my name, but I heard nothing but a high-pitched ringing in my ears. I dropped the bag. The bottle didn't break. It just thudded on the carpet and rolled, a pathetic symbol of my stupidity. I turned and walked out. I heard her call my name, then Jason's voice, pleading. But it was all just noise. I got in my car and drove, with no destination in mind. The pain wasn't a sharp sting. It was a vast, hollowing emptiness. It felt like every good memory, every moment of love and friendship, had been scooped out of me, leaving nothing but a cold, echoing shell. I wanted to scream. I wanted to drive my fist through a wall. I wanted to unleash a rage so profound it would make them feel a fraction of the pain I was feeling. But as I sat in the deafening silence of my own car, parked in a random lot, a different, colder resolve settled over me. Revenge, the loud and violent kind, would be on their terms. It would keep me tied to them, a character in their twisted drama. They expected me to break down, to beg, to yell. They expected a reaction. So I decided to give them nothing. I went silent. I blocked both of their numbers. I ignored the frantic calls from mutual friends. I deleted my social media accounts. To them, to everyone, I simply vanished. But I didn't disappear to wither away. I turned all that anger, all that pain, inward. I used it as fuel. That hollowed-out feeling became a vacuum I was determined to fill with something new, something stronger. The next morning, I woke up before dawn. I put on an old pair of sneakers and went for a run until my lungs burned. Then I went to the gym and lifted weights until my muscles screamed. The physical pain was a relief. It was honest, it was clean, and it was mine alone. I did it again the next day, and the next. The gym became my church, the iron my penance. I worked on my career with a terrifying focus, taking on projects no one else wanted and crushing them. I read books on philosophy, on finance, on things I'd always said I had no time for. I sharpened my mind as relentlessly as I trained my body. It was a brutal, lonely process. There were nights the grief felt like it would drown me. But I refused to look back. Step by painful step, I was becoming someone entirely new. The old Kevin, the trusting, naive Kevin who believed in sanctuary, was gone. I didn't know who was emerging in his place yet. I only knew he was harder. He was quieter. And he was never going to be anyone's fool again. For a while, the silence was my armor. The gym was my temple, and the grind was my religion. I was building a new life, brick by brick, and I was pretty damn proud of it. I'd almost convinced myself I was over it. Then, the universe, with its sixth sense of humor, decided to serve up a plate of cold, hard karma. And it was served directly to Emily. I heard it through the grapevine, from a friend who knew not to bring their names up, but figured this was an exception. Jason had dumped her. Worse, he'd been cheating on her. The irony was so thick you could choke on it. The guy she'd blown up our world for had turned around and done the exact same thing to her. I wish I could say I felt nothing. A part of me, the part that was still raw, felt a vicious jolt of satisfaction. But mostly, it just felt sad. And then, it got annoying. Because that's when the floodgates opened. My phone, which had been blissfully silent, suddenly became a monument to her regret. Voicemail after voicemail, each one more desperate than the last. Her voice, thick with tears, pleading for me to just listen. "Kevin, please, I made the biggest mistake of my life. You have to believe me." He meant nothing. I deleted them without finishing them. I'd given her my listening ear once. She didn't get it anymore. But she didn't stop. She started showing up. I'd be watching a game on my couch, and I'd hear it. A frantic knocking on my apartment door. Not a polite knock. A pounding. I'd look through the peephole and see her there, her face streaked with mascara, looking like a ghost of the woman I knew. "Kevin, I know you're in there. Please, just 5 minutes. Just talk to me." I'd stand there, my back against the door, holding my breath until she finally gave up. I could hear her sliding down to sit on the floor, her crying muffled by the wood. It was awful, but I never opened the door. When I blocked her number, she got creative. Fake Instagram accounts with names like Sarah_Thompson22 would pop up with follow requests. I'd accept, and a day later, a novel of a message would appear. "I know you probably hate me, but I see now what we had was real." I'd block it, and a week later, Jenny_Williams44 would try to add me. She even threatened to cut her hair, like I cared. She blew up my phone, but to no avail. Then came the accidental run-ins. She'd suddenly develop a love for the obscure coffee shop I worked from sometimes. I'd be in line, and I'd feel a tap on my shoulder. "Oh my God, Kevin. Wow, what a coincidence." Her eyes would be wide, trying to look surprised, but the act was terrible. She'd been waiting there. I'd just give her a flat, empty look, get my coffee, and walk away without a word. The final straw was the letter. My buddy Mark came over one night, looking uncomfortable. He pulled a folded piece of stationery from his pocket. "Look, man," I told her I wouldn't do this. She ambushed me at the gym. She was crying. "She made me promise to give this to you. I'm just the messenger, okay?" It was her handwriting. I didn't even open it. I just walked to the kitchen, held it over the trash can, and let it drop. I didn't need to read it to know what it said. I already knew she couldn't live without me. She'd just shown me, in vivid detail, how she lived with me. It was all so pathetic. The grand love affair she destroyed us for had crumbled to dust, and now she was scrambling to pick up the pieces of the life she'd thrown away. She wasn't sorry for what she did. She was sorry she got caught. She was sorry her backup plan fell through. And seeing it all laid out like that, the begging, the fake accounts, the staged meetings, did something strange. It didn't make me want to take her back. It didn't even make me angry anymore. It just finally, completely, closed the door. The last little flicker of what I'd felt for her, good or bad, just snuffed out. She wasn't the love of my life. She was just a person I used to know, making a scene outside my door. I was done being a part of her drama. My new life was waiting. I'd stand there, a statue in the dim hallway of my own apartment, listening to the percussive thud of her fists against the other side of the door. The wood, cheap and hollow core, would shudder in its frame, a vibration I felt more through the soles of my feet than in my ears. It was just a noise, an intrusion of sound, no more significant than the drone of a faulty refrigerator or the distant wail of a siren bleeding in from the city outside. The pleading, the anger, the raw, scraping desperation in her voice. It all dissolved into meaningless frequency before it could reach me, a signal my receiver was no longer tuned to accept. The silence that followed her departures was heavier, a thick blanket of air that seemed to absorb all light and sound. I wouldn't move, not immediately, waiting for the echo to fully die in the stairwell. Then, the phone would light up on the kitchen counter, a sudden, cold flare in the twilight of the room. Another unknown number, a fresh attempt to bridge a chasm I had already filled in. My eyes would trace the arc of its glow across the ceiling, but my hand remained at my side. I'd feel a distant, academic pity, the same way one might observe a stranger crying on the subway. A recognition of pain, a vague, anthropological curiosity about its source, but utterly divorced from any impulse to connect or console. It was a scene happening in a separate world, on the other side of a soundproof pane of glass. The voicemails piled up, a graveyard of unheard appeals. Text scrolled into a single, long column of gray, unread bubbles. Each notification was a pebble tossed into a deep, still well. I heard the impact, a small, flat sound, and then nothing. No ripple, no echo, just the return to profound quiet. It was all just static. A relentless, white noise hum of a past life desperately trying to reboot a connection I had already severed at the root. And through it all, from the first slammed door to the last unanswered ring, I never answered. Not a single time. The silence wasn't a weapon. It was simply the absence of me. People told me I was being cold, that I should at least hear her out, that maybe it would give me closure. But that's the thing they didn't get. The man she was begging for, the guy who would have forgiven anything, who would have listened to her excuses, he was gone. That version of me died in her bedroom doorway. That's the real revenge, you know? It's not the loud, dramatic kind you see in movies. It's not screaming matches or some elaborate scheme to ruin their life. That just ties you to them forever, keeps you rotting in the same old story. Real revenge is silence. It's the absolute, deafening absence of you in their world. It's rising so high above the mess they created that their desperate screams just become faint, meaningless echoes, too far away to ever reach you. It's letting them stare at a closed door, forever wondering what's on the other side, knowing they'll never be allowed in again. So if you're out there and you've been gutted by someone you trusted, listen to me. Please, don't chase closure. Don't demand explanations. Don't waste your breath trying to make them understand the pain they caused. They won't. They can't. Take that betrayal. Take that heartbreak, that rage, that feeling of being utterly hollowed out. Don't let it destroy you. Let it fuel you. Use it. Get up early. Lift the weight. Learn the new skill. Build your career. Build your life. Build yourself, brick by brick, into someone new. And let your silence be the only answer they ever get. Let it be the thing they remember you by, because that silence will haunt them far longer than any angry word ever could. The best comeback isn't a clever insult or a public humiliation. It's becoming the person they'll never, ever deserve to have a second glance from again. It's living a life so full and so good that their name doesn't even cross your mind for days, then weeks, then ever. And one day, you'll realize the screaming in your head has stopped. The anger has cooled. And you're just you, but better, stronger, free. And that's a victory no one can ever take from you. And then, I met her, Ashley. It wasn't some grand moment, just a small meet cute while I was walking back from the store after work. But sometimes it's the simplest encounters that change everything. She felt like a breath of fresh air after years of suffocating. We went out on a date, and believe it or not, Emily showed up. She tried to cause a scene, tried to drag me back into that old chaos, like it was still her story to control. But I just smiled, shook my head, and told Ashley she was just someone who couldn't handle being left behind. Ashley didn't even blink. She laughed it off, and in that moment I realized she was everything Emily wasn't. Kind without being weak. Strong without being cruel. She actually listened, understood, and never made me feel like I had to earn her attention. That night, sitting across from Ashley, I knew one thing for sure. I didn't just want to hold on to the man I had rebuilt myself into. I wanted to do more than just protect that new version of me. I wanted to grow with him, to see what kind of life he could create with someone who truly deserved a seat at the table. With her. Ashley's smile was effortless, her laugh unforced, and for the first time in a long time, I felt something I hadn't felt in years: ease. No pressure, no games, no second-guessing every word I said. Just peace. And it hit me then. This wasn't just another date. This was the beginning of something real. It felt like the first chapter of a story I actually wanted to write. One where I wasn't defined by betrayal or heartbreak, but by the choices I made moving forward. And from that moment on, I stopped looking back. Because the best part of becoming someone new isn't just the confidence or the discipline. It's the way the right person can look at you and see all of it, every piece, and still want to stay. Ashley did that for me. And I realized that was the truest kind of victory. The rest? Well, that's our story, and the rest is history.